You've arrived at Noble Growth.
What do you do if your business is struggling? How do you correct course in order to save a sinking ship? Whenever times are tough, I find it's really helpful to think of the 3 Ps. That is people, process, and product. And if you think about how you can correct each of these areas, then you're on a really great path to improving your business. Let's start with people. There's the common saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if you're in America and if you're a hard worker, probably 2 or 3 of those people are more likely than not your coworkers. So are you happy with being the average of your coworkers? Do you think highly of them? And I find it's helpful to use Warren Buffett's model for how to hire good people. And that is that everyone you hire should have high integrity, high intelligence, and high energy. So if you don't have the first one, if you don't have integrity, then the other 2 will kill you. So just imagine having someone in your team that's really smart and has a lot of energy, but they're not a good person. This person is going to be the death of your business. So integrity is insanely important. And that, in my mind, is the number one most important attribute for any team member. The second is intelligence. So if you have integrity and energy, but you don't have intelligence, then you're just not going to work on the right things. You're going to spend your time working on projects that don't matter. You'll do things in the wrong way. And everyone's probably known some people like this, who it's a really nice person. They really mean well. They really try hard, but they're just not helping out the business. That's one of the hardest decisions you have to make, is to let those people go. And by the way, by intelligence, I'm not saying intelligent about all things, but they need to be intelligent for their job. So for whatever their role is within your company, are they good at that role? Are they better than the CEO with their particular area of expertise? They should be, or else you should probably look to hire someone else. The third area is if you have integrity and intelligence, but you have no energy. And this also is a common occurrence, especially with workers who maybe they're disillusioned, maybe they're a little depressed, they're having problems at home. And, if you're someone who's a good person, you're really intelligent, but you just can't get yourself up in the morning, you can't put in the effort that you know is required to do your job right, then that is also going to be a drag on the company. Now, that's not to say that you can't have a talking with that type of person to say, I've noticed you haven't had enough energy, maybe you have some problems going on in your own life, let's talk about it. So you can definitely correct for these areas, and I'm not saying every employee has to be perfect 100 in all 3, but this is a really good metric just to know if you are going in the right direction with how you hire your team and how you manage them. So to summarize, make sure everyone on your team has high integrity, high intelligence, and high energy. Make sure you're happy with being the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with at work. And there's a really great story that just epitomizes this concept, and that is a businessman who, whenever he would hire a new team member, he would give them a set of Russian dolls. And Russian dolls are those type of dolls where you have them successively smaller ones inside of bigger dolls, so that you keep opening one doll after the other, expecting it to be the last one, and then you'll find another identical Russian doll within the one that you just opened. And the CEO, whenever he would hire a new team member, in the very last Russian doll, he would have a little note that said, "If each of us hires someone smaller than ourselves, we will become a company of mice." And then on the back side it said, "If each of us hires someone greater than ourselves, then we will become a company of giants." Now let's talk about process. The biggest question is, are your business processes explicit? Because for most businesses, they're not explicit. They exist in the minds of the managers, they maybe exist in the minds of some people who do the tasks, but there's no one place where you can just go and see the Word doc or whatever it is that writes out the exact process. And this is crucial because if it can be measured, it can be managed. If it can't be measured, then it's really hard to try to manage it. So it's important to have explicit processes. It's also important not to create top-down processes where you, as the CEO or the manager, are dictating exactly the way something needs to be done, because then the person who's doing the job will feel like just some cog in the machine who's blindly following a job without really knowing about the purpose of why they're doing it in that way. So I found it's way better, rather to micromanage, to give people the power to decide what the process should be. And as long as you're measuring every step and measuring the results, you can give feedback so that until you've achieved the appropriate metrics, you can continue to improve the process. And this gets to another concept, which is focusing on systems rather than goals, because if you focus just on goals, you're setting up a binary situation where either you did well or you didn't do well, but it doesn't really help you achieve your next victory. Whereas if you always focus on your systems and making your systems better, your processes better, then you will continually get better and better over time. Now, like, I have memories in my own life where my football coach would say, no mistakes. And as long as you didn't make a mistake, meaning if you're the outside linebacker, you do not let the running back get outside of you. And as long as you did no mistakes, then even if you got outrun by an opposing team member or they threw an incredible touchdown pass, as long as everyone on the football team did their job in the way that it was supposed to be done, then that's a victory, that's a win. So if you keep that mentality into your work, where it's all about performing your job and performing the processes with excellence, then it's okay if you maybe lose a contract to a competitor or something like that. And Michael Phelps is probably the greatest example of this, because he would literally have this system down for every day on a competition. It would go all the way down to the type of breakfast he ate in the morning, the time he got up, setting some time aside to meditate, the music he would listen to, even like the 3 little shakes he would have of his hands before he dove into the pool. Every little part of his process was fine-tuned to achieve success. So we should all think about our own businesses and our own lives in the same way. How can we optimize our processes and improve the systems of our life and of our business? Lastly, let's talk about product. Naval Ravikant says that product is the resume of the team. And that's really a good way to think about it. Whatever product your company is putting out, or maybe it's a service, maybe you're servicing clients, whatever your deliverables are, that's the resume of your team. That is the evidence for whether or not your whole organization is doing a good job or a not so good job. So there are a few metrics that are important to look at here. One is, how fast are you shipping new product? Meaning, how quickly are you iterating and getting better and better versions of your company's deliverables? Are you constantly putting your previous product out of business and constantly innovating, so that just like how you're improving your systems over time, you're also improving your product over time? Now, there are some examples of companies that have done this terribly and companies that have done this incredibly well. One example that was done terribly was Kodak. Kodak pretty much owned the photography market for a very long time, and they were actually the ones who invented digital cameras. However, they didn't invest in digital cameras because they were making so much money not only on their old-fashioned cameras, but also on developing the film and of all the other business processes and fees that go along with that, that they weren't willing to actually innovate and actually put their own product out of business. So what happened is they ended up dying a slow death, where all these other digital camera companies came out and gobbled up all of their market. They were not able to adapt. They were not able to improve their product and put their previous product out of business. A positive example is Apple. Apple is always innovating and always putting themselves out of business. So, for instance, they came out with the iPhone, which really cannibalized a lot of the business and the market of the iPod, to the point where now hardly anyone buys iPods. Everyone just buys iPhones. But because they did that, they didn't expose themselves to Microsoft or Google or some other company coming in with a smartphone to put their iPod out of business. And Apple continues to do this to this day, where they're coming out with Apple glasses soon, and those are almost certainly eventually going to cannibalize the iPhone, where you can imagine a future where you have an Apple Watch, AirPods, some AR glasses, and you don't even need to bring your phone out in the world. So Apple is always innovating. They're always putting themselves out of business. And really all the great tech companies do this. Google has their famous moonshot projects where they recognize that it's a moonshot. The odds of them creating something that can read people's minds or that can enable space travel or whatever the moonshot project may be, the odds are very low. But if they are able to achieve any one of these moonshot projects, the potential rewards are tremendous. So you should think about your own life and your own business in the same way. Do you have some moonshot projects in the works, or are you always just playing it safe? So it's important to listen to your customers, of course, but it's also important to recognize that your customers don't always know what they want until you show it to them. Like a customer wouldn't know that they want an iPhone before the iPhone exists. So you need to balance data-driven decision making based on customer feedback and learnings you're getting from your analytics, and also the intuitive feeling of what's going on with the current zeitgeist and what is it that people are lacking in their lives and how can you make their lives better. Because if you're passionate about solving a problem, there is no shortage of pivots that your company can make to achieve success. Thank you for listening. If you need any help pivoting your business or trying to find product market fit, reach out to me at Mattimore@noblegrowth.co anytime. And until next episode, keep growing.
You are this universe, and you are creating it at every moment, because you see it starts now.
You've arrived at Noble Growth.
Tell the truth, but make the truth fascinating. You can't bore people into buying your product. You can only interest them in buying it.
Marketing is about values. This is a very complicated world. It's a very noisy world. And we're not going to get a chance to get people to remember much about us. No company is. And so we have to be really clear on what we want them to know about us.